As I started to become a regular in Soho House, I started noticing a peculiar looking gentleman tucked back in the corner, and I couldn't help to start wondering, who is he? What does he do? And what's up with all of those notebooks? Hi, I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. I'm an educator, design entrepreneur, and author, and I'm the founder of Creative Leaders. As the world becomes much more complicated and not understandable, we need innovators and change makers that help us to inspire, challenge, and disrupt the status quo. And this is Creative Leaders at the House. This episode is about creative activism with Bobsy Gaia. Welcome to the house. Bobsy, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
So, I actually found the courage one day to come up to you and say, hi, I introduce myself. And as we started talking, I was transported, I would say, into a fascinating adventure that spans Beirut, Thailand, Hong Kong, and I get to know your past a little bit and also all your passion about activism and social enterprise and ecopreneurship. I think most of the people will recognize you as the founder of Mana, but not only that. So, can you tell us a little bit about this journey?
Well, thank you for noticing me and for having the courage to come up. And, I don't bite, right?
Depends.
My journey really begins in the current being who I am back in 1989. I was in Bangkok. I'd bankrupted my fashion company. My background is fashion.
Mhm.
I'd bankrupted my first fashion company and I'd fled Beirut and gone to Cyprus, spent 6 months in Cyprus, and then eventually got to Bangkok. And I was in Bangkok penniless, but I had $1 million idea. And that was the light bulb that had exploded a few months earlier in a fashion show in London. And that was the old-fashioned words that really sound old-fashioned now, environmentally friendly.
Oh, okay.
So at this fashion show, we displayed, designs, and we were so proud of what we were doing, but we had no substance. And these two British ladies, buyers, came up to us and said, "We love your designs, but do you have them in environmentally friendly cotton?" Verbatim, environmentally friendly cotton. And being Lebanese entrepreneurs, we said, "Yeah, sure, of course." I had no idea what she was talking about. But this light bulb exploded. Something that was dormant within me since either this life or a previous life or a past life just exploded. And then I researched something called the environment, which is not us, it's something else. And I took that idea and eventually got to Bangkok. And long story short, designed 20 T-shirts with a powerful environmental message, which was a Native American Indian quote prophesizing the future. And my friends were like, "Wow, cool T-shirt." So I sold 20 T-shirts very quickly.
What was the quote?
It's a native, it's called the Rainbow Prophecy. And it says, check this out. When the earth is sick and dying, a tribe of people from all creeds, colors, and races will come together to put their faith in deeds, not words, to make the land green again. So I took that as a fact, and it is a fact. Maybe not the human time scale, but it's a fact. And with those 20 T-shirts, I started my company and eventually opened an eco-fashion store in Bangkok, Siam Square, which with hindsight now is arguably Asia's first green store.
Okay.
All we did was eco-friendly fashion. My company was called Sidon, which is an ancient Phoenician port city in Beirut, in Lebanon. Sidon Conscious Clothing Limited. And we had an eco store in Siam Square, and we started with Earth Day 1990, and and it was just brilliant. Creativity, excitement, passion, on a mission because I had this vision that, we're fucking up our planet and no one's paying attention. And what can we do? And I can do something. And I've got a background in design. And it was so exciting, man. It still is, but, rock and roll.
So in our conversations, you told me that you always, since a young age, you were passionate about design, art, music a lot. How that relates to ecopreneur or sustainability? I'm very interested in the connection. Of course, the fashion, that part of the component is interesting, but what is your take? What is creativity to you? Maybe that's the question, the rooted question.
We are all gifted with a gift. Some of us discover it early in life. Others are too afraid to discover it. Others might discover it late in life. And the very few never discover it, sadly. So my seed of creativity from which everything springs is understanding at a young age that planet Earth is being killed by the ignorance of humanity. And that it doesn't have to be that way. It's a path we've somehow chosen. And my creative spark is to raise environmental awareness. And I've done it many, many different ways in Hong Kong specifically. Not just fashion, which was what brought me to Hong Kong, but also planting trees. It's the same thing. Publishing positive news in Hong Kong, which talked about all the positive things happening in Hong Kong and the region, beautifully bilingual. It was called Positive News. So publishing, organizing festivals, events, especially Llama Island. I'm a Llama boy. My background is Llama Island.
Your background.
We organized the Earth Power Festival in 1996, got involved with many festivals, music. So where music meets creativity, meets environmental awareness, and everything I've done in Hong Kong has been zero plastic and zero waste. And then, of course, later in 1997, I started opening my first cafes and restaurants. And so the first one was on Llama Island called the Bookworm Cafe. Even back then, 97, 98, we never used plastic once. No styrofoam lunchboxes, nothing. All our food waste was fed to 2 Vietnamese pot-belly pigs. They ate everything until the FEHD cracked down on us and said, you can't have pigs. So they took them away. And then eventually I moved Hong Kong side and I opened Life Cafe. And many, many years later, I opened the chain Mana Fast Slow Food.
Yes.
But everything is from this seed, this core value of raising environmental awareness. So for me, if a product doesn't have a message, a profound message with it, or if a product pollutes, it is faulty. It doesn't carry enough weight. Because you're going to the trouble of creating something, be it a beautiful piece of clothing or a restaurant, product, foods, whatever. Try and add some value that will inspire the end user going, oh, wow, I didn't know that with Chomp, for example, that 30 double-decker buses of food waste every day are thrown away. When we have 1 billion people on planet Earth that go to bed hungry.
Yeah.
1 billion people. Can you imagine, guys? 1 out of 8 people goes to bed hungry.
Yeah.
It's not right. Yet we waste all of this food. So please finish everything on your plates. Make sure I don't see you in Soho House leaving any food waste, okay?
So we had an interesting chat because I was very curious of Mana, if we can focus take that route a little bit. And there is one thing that inspired me because you told me and I'm not a vegetarian. And but I loved manna, and I loved manna just because it was good food and was feeling. It was just a good experience, right? So instead of getting the same, my at the time my office was actually close by, so I went there quite often. Poor not. Uh, what I'm trying to say is I didn't go there for any preconception. It was just good food. So, and you told me that was your belief at the beginning. Yes, there is a message, but at the base, it had to be good food without, I would say, pressing too much on the idea that was vegetarian or vegan, or you had vegan options, and you were spreading the message, but in a creative but also gracious way. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, it's good food. So
for
just
any
come.
designer to be successful,
Mm,
your product has to be good. Full stop. So if you're a fashion designer and making clothes and your clothes aren't attractive,
sure.
doesn't matter if they're made out of gold or they're eco-friendly or sustainable. So step number one, whether you're designing a menu for a restaurant or you're creating music as an artist or designing fashion, whatever, the product has to be good.
Mm,
But then to take it a step higher, add value. And usually adding value is expensive.
okay.
Add value, by
Interesting.
example, in Mana, all packaging was made of compostable packaging.
Yeah.
So back in 97, 98, 99, that was not available. So you had to create the market, the product. So first step, make your product really good.
So
Second, make sure it doesn't pollute. Make sure it's not harming the other.
what makes a
Third,
good
add
product?
value.
What makes a good? I'm interested in your head.
Well,
like,
that's your specialty, right?
no,
Design.
I know, but okay, let me try to feed you. Uh, this is one of I think for any designer, fashion designer, product designer, this question is it's crucial, right? So I've been battling with this concept because is it a good product? Is it aesthetic? Is it functional? I'm a mechanical engineer by training, right? So sometimes the two things don't necessarily collide. The thing that something that is functional is also beautiful. And I've been struggling with this definition of what is a good product or what is an aesthetic product, because also, as we know, aesthetic are subjective. So what would be aesthetically pleasing for an Indian person might not be the same for a Finnish person. But in my first book, I tried to answer this question. And the only way that I could work around the concept of aesthetics or personal taste, let's put it this way, was it's very hard to define a good product, but universally people can point out what a bad product is. So,
Well, let me add something that might have been missing when you went to college back in the 1940s. Well, first of all, the product has to be attractive to catch the human eye.
yeah.
We are visual by dominance. Our dominant sense is visual. So it has to be attractive. Two, it has to be practical and functional. You can't wear a piece of clothing, no matter how attractive it is, if it's not comfortable.
Sure.
But the missing ingredient, in my opinion, and this is something I've been focused on now for over 35 years, is that one thing that is in common, whether you're Indian, Chinese, Caucasian, whether you're from London or from Timbuktu, can anybody guess what it is? What's one thing that's in common that belongs to all of us, regardless of our isms, whether you're capitalism or socialism or communism? That is planet Earth, our mother. We are all humans on planet Earth. Without her, we cannot live. Whether you know that today or don't, you have to learn it sooner or later. So the product you design, can it support life on Earth? Can it add value to life on Earth? Or is it taking away from life on Earth by creating toxic pollution or toxicity or virus or something bad? So that, I think, is the missing link. We design products attractive, practical, but they have to have more depth and width and value. And that's my gig. And that's what I've been doing, I think, quite successfully now for 35 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough conversation, this one, because, I mean, it's not the norm. Otherwise, we wouldn't have extreme waste of technology, for instance, obsolescence, or what is called embedded obsolescence is something that engineers or designers sometimes bake into the product.
Yeah.
If we want to go back to my time back in the 50s, you actually designed a refrigerator or a stove to last a lifetime. Today, if if an appliance lasts 4 or 5 years, is lasted a lot. So, and there are, I mean, I don't take this conversation lightly because there are many factors. There is also the fact that our modern appliances are much more affordable than they used to be. If I remember my grandparents that were from humble beginnings, there was one washing machine in the building. No, so not everyone had a washing machine. Not everyone had a TV. Now, in most of our apartments, we have 3 TVs. And
That's nothing. When I was a kid, we were lucky if we had one washing machine in the whole village.
No, but
We can start escalating now.
No, I'm saying a good product has to have, in my opinion, a responsible designer today has to take that into consideration. Unfortunately, it's not the world we live in today, right? It's not the norm. So when I ask you the what's a good product, is an aesthetic product, or that, I was more interested in what you said. I think if I can synthesize so we can move on the next subject, is it needs to have a connection to human. Like it's like you said for clothing, is it needs to make you comfortable, or I like to say it needs to elevate the human condition. So whatever it is, it needs to add something to you, and I won't go into big philosophy, but even a luxury bag, if that makes your life better, just because that is an achievement, is something you always desired, that it's good. Sometimes luxury brands are also good because maybe they design less bags. I'm happier to, I don't know, but maybe a luxury brand is more careful about the quality of the product.
Yeah.
So we had the opportunity to walk as we were preparing this discussion, or talking about this discussion, also about your uprising in Beirut, which is also linked to the notebooks. Can you talk about that?
I was born and raised in Beirut, and then I suppose everyone's familiar with Iran, Beirut, and Israel right now. And I was born into a predominantly English family. My daddy was half Lebanese, my mummy was fully English, and have spent the first 10 years in beautiful Lebanon. But then when I was 10, the civil war started. So everything changed, and I experienced all my teenage years growing up in Beirut from the age of 10 till 19. So, it's a civil war, it's going on, it's has its moments, its ups, its downs, and I ended up being a child soldier for a while, and participated in the war, and But then when I was, 14, I realized that I'm not a fighter in a sense. I'm not a soldier. And I was really, really into fashion and music. So I wanted to move in that direction. And my very close friends and I formed a group called The Strangers. And, we spent the rest of the Civil War organizing events and parties and having fun.
So,
And then when I was 19, I was meant to go to uni in England, and my parents expected me to go to at least college, university. I'm the only one in the family who was not educated. Everyone else went to uni except me. So it was quite
you're the
dramatic,
black sheep of the family.
quite dramatic getting out of Beirut. And I went to England, and I briefly enrolled in art college. Wasn't my thing. I was itching to make money so I could buy LPs, records. I could buy fashion. I could eventually got my own apartment, my own hi-fi system. I got a beautiful convertible yellow open top Triumph. With a very small job in Tesco. I was working in a meatpacking department.
Yes, this is actually
Which
a
is
very
ironic
fun story. Yeah, it's super ironic. And I want
working with butchers, but just having a job in Thatcher's England back in the 1980s allowed me to buy my own apartment and get everything I wanted. I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing, but I just needed to have my own independence at that particular time.
Yeah.
And eventually I converted that apartment into my ecopreneurship, which I continue with today.
I just remember when you told me this story, I was like, okay, now I understand. Maybe you've seen too much. And
I saw how they prepare the meat and how the butchers chop.
How many years have you been a vegetarian now?
33 now.
Well,
yeah, being I'm vegetarian. I'm predominantly plant-based,
okay.
but I still try to eat some organic cheese or yogurt or
Sure. I would like to, before we drive slowly to end the conversation, when we talk about one of the things that we wanted to discuss, you gave me this interesting definition that I would love to explore, which is the concept and idea of cultural creatives, which is something I didn't expected or I didn't thought about at the beginning. So my question is, do you believe creativity can actually change the world?
It's the only thing that ever has. Every great idea humanity's put forward starts out as blasphemy. Every great idea we've put forward as humans has been blasphemous. And eventually it becomes the norm. So creativity is always led the way. Whether it's in science or engineering or social change or any imagination, right? Perhaps the only limit to humanity is what we believe in.
Yeah.
That's our limit. So in other words, we are unlimited because our imagination is unlimited.
Yeah.
Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. I imagine, therefore I am. This is a new paradigm on which we need to build a sustainable world. So creativity is paramount.
Yeah.
And myself, I've always described myself as a cultural creative.
Yeah.
Maybe the audience is not familiar with this term, but a cultural creative is someone who operates on the edge of culture, where they create new horizons, new vistas, and they push humanity forward through inspiration.
Yeah.
And I find that sexy. My God, it's sexy.
I mean, creative leaders, we talk about that mindset that you just described, which is what I define as the abundance mindset, right? We are ruled by the scarcity mindset, like you just described before. So how is it possible that we waste food, but
Mm.
we have 1 billion people
Yeah.
starving, right? So it is, unfortunately, I believe we are
Yeah.
led by this scarcity mindset, when in the realm of creativity and design and innovation, options are infinite, because our, like you said, our imagination doesn't have boundaries. And there is something I've been struggling a bit lately, especially looking at, and I know, you are the person that can understand this. Whatever is happening in the world, and I always wonder if war, conflict, difficult relationship, to me, without sounding patronizing, is actually a, a sign of human stupidity. Which means when war or conflict is the result, is the answer, maybe it's because we haven't applied our intelligence enough.
Absolutely. See, at any given moment in humanity, there's a dominant paradigm. A paradigm with a capital P is a collective belief
Yeah.
beyond politics and religion. For example, we all believe that the earth is round. That's a paradigm. Once upon a time, we believed the earth was flat. That's a paradigm. So the dominant paradigm that's dominated humanity for the last few hundreds years, at least since the Industrial Revolution, is the agreement that we've all agreed that materialism, in other words, material success, is the pinnacle of human success. That's why we all kind of secretly admire billionaires and people who've made it. So this is a faulty paradigm. We have somehow collectively as humanity decided that material success is the apex of success, what we call a materialism paradigm. Now, this is the root cause of what you call stupidity, ignorance, wars, destruction of rainforests, pollution of ground, air, water, consumption of animals, stem from this root cause that somehow materialism is ultimate success. But no, we know that to be faulty. But to change humanity takes hundreds of years. We don't have hundreds of years. The pinnacle of success is a consciousness paradigm. That means peace of mind, well-being, and happiness. That's how we measure success, not how rich you are. Once you become rich, you realize that you want more. So that is the root cause of why we have wars, why we are killing each other, why we eat so many animals, why we're chopping down all the forests, why we're fishing out all the fish from the sea. Because we believe that material success is the ultimate. It's not. So once that paradigm changes, and it is, and people like me have been working hard at it for 35 years, and many people here in the audience too, is we need to shift that paradigm so that kids, when they're born, realize that not Bill Gates is the pinnacle of success, or Elon Musk, whatever his name is. It's well-being and happiness and peace of mind that we have to strive for and guide our children towards that. And of course, you can't have a healthy human being without a healthy planet. So they go hand in hand. If you do have a healthy mind and you're positive and healthy body, then of course you're going to work towards a healthy planet, because one can't be without the other.
So it's a complicated discussion, and we don't have enough time.
Well, you asked the question.
I think we need to make a special episode where we sit down and we really knock this down, because I am a firm believer that human creativity, human imagination, human innovation is the answer. Without rhetoric, I truly believe, I had the opportunity to work on both sides, extreme capitalism and extreme let's call it sustainability with the work we did with the World Food Program or other agencies. But the common thread is looking at something that doesn't work and just asking the question, how can we make this better? Or is there a better way that we can do that? And I think this is the also mission that we have, right? To empower 1 million creative leaders. So I that's why I named this podcast also Creative Leaders. So how do we lead with creativity, which means pushing the boundaries. So as a fire round, I always ask the same questions. What inspires you, or what do you want to inspire?
I'm inspired by raising environmental awareness. So anything I can do to inspire that and drop that seed into people's fertile minds, I'm happy.
What inspires you?
What inspired me? I really don't know. That idea of the words environmentally friendly exploded something in my young mind. And then I researched something called the environment and what was happening to the state of the planet. And I realized as a designer, I can play a role.
Okay.
And it was the time,
So
we're talking about
participation.
89, 1990, 1991, very, very positive times for planet Earth and humanity.
Yeah. What challenges you?
Ignorance.
Mm,
When I see ignorance in people, I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way.
mm.
We are Homo sapiens. We are intelligent beings. Why are we behaving like buffoons? Why are we treating Mother Earth as if she's a dustbin or as if we have a planet B or planet C? We don't. We only have one planet and some other.
And what is the disruption, which means the complete change or complete revolution that you would like to see within your lifetime?
I'd like to see people paying attention to the dominant paradigm on humanity, on planet Earth today. The dominant paradigm that decides our policies, our institution, education, industry, politics, they're all decided by this underlying paradigm. And a paradigm is like air to the birds. If you take a bird and you say, hello, bird, how's the air today? The bird will say, air? What are you talking about? Or if you took a fish from the sea and said, hello, fish, how's the water today? They'll say, what? So fish are not aware that they swim in a medium called water. Birds are not aware that they fly in a medium called air. We humans are not aware that there's a dominant paradigm that unites all of us and dictates how we think, how we wake up in the morning. It's that needs to change, and it is changing. And that is the cutting edge.
Awesome. Bobsy, thank you so much for being part of the show. It was a wonderful conversation as usual. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. This is Creative Leaders at the House. Thank you again for Soho House to hosting us and our fantastic production studio, That Good Studio. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. Thank you so much, Bobsy Gaia.
Thank you.